This is Pastor Allen. Today is Thursday, April 2nd, and we're going to talk about a verse from Isaiah chapter 26, verses 3 and 4, which gives us something to think about in the midst of everything that we're going through. The Bible has all these little verses that are very helpful to us. And sometimes they're hard to find, and sometimes we just sort of skip over them. But Isaiah chapter 26, verses 3 and 4 says this: "You will keep the mind that is dependent on you in perfect peace." And verse 4, "Trust in the Lord forever, because in the Lord himself is an everlasting rock." Pretty good words of wisdom from the Bible. And this is a promise from God. He says he will keep our mind focused on God. And he will keep us in perfect peace, which means freedom from disturbance and a mental calmness. Our mind will be calm or at peace. And then verse 4, it says, "Trust in the Lord forever." Forever is a long, long time. And we are to do this because God is an everlasting rock, meaning something solid, something unmovable. A lot of people are anxious about the times that we're living in. But the Bible tells us that we need to focus. We need to make our minds committed and focused on God. We need to think and live with hope and confident living. Isaiah tells us that. The Bible tells us to trust. And why it tells us to trust is because God is like our fortress, which is the meaning of the Hebrew word. You remember as a kid that perhaps you built a fort out of using couch pillows to play with your brothers or sisters or to play with your friends. And even though those cushions didn't provide much, you were protected. You felt really safe. Or perhaps you built a snow fort for a snowball fight. But if you're going to get in a snowball fight, you need to have a snow fort or a wall or a tree or something to hide behind while you're making snowballs. Even though when you have a snowball fight, you make up a certain amount of snowballs before you start, and then you start. But you run out of snowballs eventually, so you have to reload. You have to remake more snowballs, and so you need a snow fort to hide behind. But that provided protection for you. That provided safety, and that's what God is telling us. He is telling us, "I will be a rock. I will be something that you can hide behind, something you can stand on, something you can lean on that will not be moved." Look, one way or the other, God is going to keep us in his presence. And God, from the time that we become believers and going forward, is going to be a forever protector. So the Bible tells us that God will shield us. And verse 4 tells us God is an everlasting rock. It reminds us of that hymn, Rock of Ages. And when all of this started, Most of us thought this was just a bad version of the flu. Well, we now know different. It dominates the news morning and night, yet more people die of other things than they do of the COVID-19 virus. In fact, more people die of tuberculosis in a day than people die of COVID-19. So we need to apply Isaiah 26 verses 3 and 4 to ourselves. Ask yourself these two questions when you start to get off track, if you start to get anxious, if you're not sure where you stand and your mind is wandering, ask yourself these two questions. Is what I'm thinking actually true or happening to me? And the second thing is, what I'm thinking helpful to me, to others? And the answer to both of them is most likely no. See, most of the things that we think about, most of the things we get anxious about, most of the things we see, or what we think about, doesn't happen to us. It's not true for us. That's why the Bible is so helpful to us. It gives us the right way to think, the right place to think, the right thoughts to think, and who to focus our thoughts on, to focus our mind on. Focus and depend on God. Trust in the Lord. Remember that He is like an unmovable rock. We cannot change things that we have no control over. Only God can do this for us. God has got this. God has got you. So take control of your thoughts and put your mind on God. Amen. Have a great Thursday. Be careful. And we'll see you tomorrow.